Hi guys, welcome back to Harry Makes Up. Today I have a gorgeous model with me, Sammy. We recently shot together for an editorial and I wanted to recreate the look we did for the editorial with a sort of runway to reality feel. So picking up on lots of the spring summer trends, lots of metallics, lots of muted tones with pinks and silver, but very, very wearable. I'm going to make the look wearable with a kind of twist and inspired by the spring summer trends at the minute. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that my upload time has now changed. My upload time will now be UK time 6:30 PM on a Sunday, and it will be Los Angeles time 10:30 AM. So I'm just saying that here, and I'll pop something in the blog as well just as a reminder, but that will now be my new upload time. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. So the first thing I'm going to use on my gorgeous model Sammy today is I'm going to use a bit of this fluid sheer. This is by Giorgio Armani and it's in the shade 2. And the look we did for the editorial me and Sammy were doing was just very, very radiant. It was really about kind of beautiful glowing skin. So, and this is quite an intense kind of sheen, but I really, really like it, especially if you want that kind of lift on your skin and you want your skin to just look really alive again and lovely and glowing. So we've got a really lovely glowing base. And then the foundation I want to use today is actually a new one. This is by Kevyn. It's the Etherialist Skin Illuminating Foundation. Again, like we said, the whole feel of this is super glowy skin. So I'm just going to try number 2 and number 3 and see which one will be better on Sammy. So if I turn you that way a little bit down. So this one's number 2. And I'd say that's pretty perfect. So I'm going to go with number 2. And I'm just going to use a Sigma round kabuki brush. And we're just going to start smoothing that through the skin. And I'm kind of concentrating where it's needed because Sammy has really great skin, so only a little bit around the inside. So just starting at the centre and just working my way out. You can totally use fingers as well with this foundation, but I just want to make sure that the layer is really well buffed in. And I'm going to switch to my Zoeva Luxe highlighter brush because it's really nice for just buffing the product in on top. Okay, so we've got a nice smooth base that's just kind of evened out the skin tone. And I think when you've kind of done a really perfected base, you almost lose the features and you have to like put them back in again. So we're just going to do a little bit on Sammy's brows. And I'm going to take a bit of Ash Brown by NYX. This is such a good, affordable brow product. So we're just going to give a little groom. If I turn you that way a bit down, that's it. And I'm just going to thicken up a little bit on Sammy's brows, but I'm using a very, very light hand. I actually like Sammy's brows a little bit darker with the look that I'm going to create. So normally on Sammy I would go for like a taupe tone or something that's a little bit lighter, but I want the brows to have a more kind of fluffy appearance. And just keep brushing through as I go so I can make sure it stays looking natural. And the first product I'm going to go in with, the one I actually used on Sammy on the day for the editorial, was this one by H&M, which I absolutely love. And I think some online sites for H&M still have this one. It is Countess, which is their eye cream colour. If you can't find that one, then MAC do a paint pot called Perky, which is really great. So you can use the MAC one, it's more widely available. So I'm going to take the H&M one, and this one is super affordable and performs like a high-end product. So this colour, like I said, it's kind of like a minky peach almost. That's the best way to describe it. So if I turn you facing the camera, darling, just there. So I'm going to take this all over the lid, and this is going to act like a really pretty eye base as well. And I feel like this is such a unique colour. Just love the kind of peachy tone in it. And I end up using this a lot in my pro kit because, like I said, it really does perform like a high-end cream shadow. And it does set as well, so you get a bit of playtime. So, and what I did on the day was I actually took this quite high up because it did quite literally act as like my kind of primer as well as a bit of base colour. And then taking a buffing brush, something like a MAC 127 or a Zoeva Luxe Soft Definer, just buff that through. And we're going to do the concealer last, guys, because I think just then if anything does fall down, you've got time to kind of touch it up a little bit. So next I'm going to use the Lancome, this is the London Audacity palette, and there's some really nice kind of plummy lavenders and silvery greys, which again I think are a really nice way to kind of do a spring eye that's got a little bit of colour but very soft and wearable. So I'm going to start with the lavender shade first. So I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to kind of do, I used a Dior palette on the day for the shoot I did with Sammy, but I think this is still a really nice one to work with and I know it's regularly available. So just going to mix like a lavender and a pink. If I telling you that I don't. And then I just took this kind of into the socket. Just to give it a little bit more depth. And it's so subtle, you know, it's not crazy on the colour front, but it's enough that it definitely has that kind of runway feel. So just taking those colours, the lilacs and the kind of pinky tones, just taking those kind of through the sockets and then just making like a rounded V on the outer corner. So it gives a bit of definition, a bit of dimension, and it's really kind of shaping the eye. And I find if you use a big fluffy brush, you'll get a better result. It just looks that little bit less perfected, sort of a bit more rock and roll. And then I'm going to take a slightly smaller brush. So I'm going to take, this is an old Makeup Forever one, but anything that's like a pencil shaped brush, going in with that same kind of pinky lavender. If you look up for me, Jen. I'm going to also take that under the eye and just give a bit of shape to the lower lash line. And I think pinks always look really expensive. They actually, it's one of those colours I think people are really afraid of, but if you look at what happened with the red trend through autumn, winter, they are tones that are actually very flattering. It's just how you use them. So there's some really great kind of greys and silvers in this palette, and mixing these two, I'm going to use a little bit of that as well now, just subtly over where we put the kind of plummy shade. So if you look straight ahead for me, and I just think having a silver wash, that kind of grey wash over the top, and it just gives it a little bit more coolness to the eye in the sense that the tones are a little bit cooler. So a little bit into there. And you know, you can really kind of go for it if you want to, but you can also really play these kind of tones down. You know, and it's kind of 3 colours predominantly, but it's up to you in terms of which colour as well you want to be the most prominent. And then going back to the silver as well, just on a pencil brush, and take a little bit of that on that inner corner. Just there. And this has a subtle bit of shimmer in, but I think it's not too much that kind of distracts from the look. And I just want that on the lower part of the eye really, not all over the eye. So these are really amazing, guys. These are by Lancome as well, and these are the Drama Liqui pencils. And these I feel like you get quite a bit of playtime with, and then they set really well. And they come in metallics and mattes, and they're just a beautiful formula. So if you look up for me, Sammy, so I'm actually going to do a little bit of this in the waterline, because I just think it gives a really cool, ever so slightly metallic effect that, again, can be quite wearable. And you could even kind of work this into like an evening makeup look, but it just kind of offsets the darkness of like the plummy tones. And you can even take that a little bit just over where we put the inner corner. Just on there, just to give like a pop of brightness. So I'm just going to give Sammy's lashes a little curl. I kind of don't want the lashes crazy curled though. I feel like I almost want them just a little bit of lift, but nothing too extreme. I think the kind of key with this look is for it not to feel too pretty. It's still got that kind of grungy vibe. Okay. So then I'm going to take Chanel mascara. This one is the Dimensions to Chanel 40, which is kind of like an aubergine-y, purpley brown, but it's kind of subtle enough that you wouldn't know it was those tones unless you were close up. So if you look up for me, Sammy, so I'm just going to do a tiny bit on the bottom lashes. And I'm going to keep it mostly at the roots. I'm not really going to kind of feather it all the way through. I'm just going to push it into the roots of the lashes, just the base. So for the under eye area on Sammy, I'm going to mix 2 concealers. I'm going to take a bit of Laura Mercier first, and I'm going to mix it in with some of the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, both which will be quite full coverage. So we're just going to remove any darkness from under the eye. So I'm going to pop a bit of this one on the back of my hand, just to work with. And then I'm going to take my Real Techniques setting brush, and I'm going to mix a bit of the S2. This is the Secret Camouflage, using a bit of the orangey tone as well. If you look up for me, Sammy, that's it. Just into the lowest parts of the eyes first. And you might have to warm up the Secret Camouflage. Sometimes it does have that kind of stiffness to it, so just give it a bit of warmth. You can even add a drop of oil into it if you need to, like a face oil, just to give it a little bit of lift. And then I can mix in some of that Secret Camouflage with the Tarte concealer. So if I put your head up a little bit, Sally, that's it. Just there. And I'm going to take that on the outside portion of the face as well, just to give a really nice highlight. And it's going to kind of sculpt everything and just tie it all together now. So everything looks very polished. You can take a little bit of that on the inside part. And with what's left on the brush, I'm just going to use that around the nose as well. So then I can just go around and make sure none of the edges that have been disturbed, so like using a fluffy brush, just gonna re-go over, if you look up for me doing. And it's quite a big brush, because I think that's the beautifulness of this makeup, is keeping it really soft. If I turn you that way for me, darling, that's it. So then I'm going to take this product by Burt's Bees. I'm really loving, actually, guys, and I'm loving it on the cheeks and the lips. It's called Burt's Bees Gloss Lip Crayon, and this is in the shade Santorini Sunrise. So I'm going to pop a little bit of this on Sammy's lips, using it quite lightly, and just kind of, I'm going to just pat it in with my finger. And I'm actually going to use a bit of this on the cheeks as well. So I'm going to kind of put it on the back of my hand, like I would a cream blush, and then just go back to the foundation brush I used earlier. So if I turn you that way, Sammy. So I'm going to put it quite high on the cheeks. It's just such a lovely kind of glossy, highlightery finish that works really well with all the colours we've used. And then I wanted the look, so the look we did for the more editorial version was using like a white icy highlighter as well. And I'm going to use Pearl by Becca. This one is the Pressed. And this was just really lovely just on the tops of the cheekbones, just to really kind of push the highlighter even further. And it really gave the skin a lovely, lovely glow. And the colours in the eyes have like really blended together now really beautifully. So you can add more mascara if you want to at this point. The only thing I'm going to finish with is a tiny bit of lip pencil, and it's this one by Laura Mercier. It's called Natural Lips. And I just think this is a really pretty kind of browny tone. So I'm just going to, just to make Sammy's lips a little bit rounder on the top, just going over ever so slightly. And so we just added a little bit more thickness with the brow gel to the top of the brows, and that's it, guys. That's the look done. At me and at Harry Makes Up if you're trying any of the looks on my socials. I'd love to see your recreations. I'd love it if you subscribe, and I'll see you soon with more videos. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.